Idiot.
Welcome to Red Zone DFS. We got NFL Week 1. I mean, I've been waiting for this since February. I mean, I'm more excited than this is Christmas for us, right? I mean, you guys are pretty jacked up. Thursday night, I'm taking off from work early. Friday, I'm just going to be watching the game during work. Sunday, I told the wife and kid, go find something else to do because it's NFL all day.
It's happening, baby. It's happening. We had we get the showdown for Thursday night show up on YouTube and all of our pod feeds. So you guys go listen to that. If you want to wet the beak a little bit before the weekend gets kicked off, we got a pretty nice showdown slate tomorrow night. But yeah, I'm fucking pumped.
We started up, had a little bit of a rocky Saturday over here, but almost took down a college football showdown on the Florida State game there. So the beat is wet, my friend, ready to go.
Soaking, dripping, love it.
I wasn't going to go that far, but we're ready.
Well,
it's wet. It's moist. It's moist. The beak is moist.
Okay.
All right, guys. So we're going to get into it. We're going to keep this show as tight as possible. We're tightening it up. We're cutting the fat. So we're going to go 2 quarterbacks each. Honorable mention. Running back, receiver. We're going to get really deep because there's a lot of players there. Tight end, same thing. 2 with an honorable mention. Defense. Everyone gets 1 defense. And of course, at the end, hot takes of the week, the hottest takes you can possibly find. So
we got to start with
quarterback.
Trimming the fat, wetting the beak, moist, keeping it tight. Man, we are just on fire.
I mean, we're in year 3 with the vocabulary is strong with the podcast game at this point. All right, guys, let's start with quarterbacks. Again, we get 2. We'll go around the bend here. Vinny, we're going to lead off with Mr. 14 quarterbacks. You only get 2. So, all right, give me your top quarterback. Tell me why. We'll make comments if necessary, and then we'll move it around the horn.
All right. Well, number 1, I'm leading off with, I'm sure he'll be, it's going to be pretty spread out at quarterback, so I'm not too worried about ownership, but his main man and weapon decided to show up to practice today without a new deal. I'm going right to Joe Burrow. I think he's on a bounce back train this year. I think New England is going to be absolutely atrocious this season. I think Burrow and them come out absolutely on fire. Biggest spread on the slate. They're at home. I think Joey B puts it to him in a big, big way here. As we always talk about, very clear stacking options, 6,500. I love Burrow this weekend to kind of kick things off for me. So that's my top quarterback on the slate. Do you want me to hit on number 2, or do you want to go round robin this thing?
Let's go round robin. Let's go around. So Jim, who's your top quarterback and why?
I'm going to take the approach this year of not overthinking things, and when a guy's in a really good spot, just pound the fuck out of him. And for me this week, it's Josh Allen. I don't care that he's lost some of his quote unquote weapons, a lot of new faces there. But if you look at all of the options you have, and this will be a little teaser to my favorite stack later, is all of his options to pair with him are so cheap, and you can pick 3 of them. And I know that for whatever reason, Arizona has gotten some sort of weird buzz this offseason, like they're improved. Their offense might be better, with Marvin Harrison, and, you've got everybody healthy. I really like Michael Wilson as a wide receiver, but going to Buffalo, I think that Josh Allen is going to win the MVP this year. And I think he's going to put up some of the most ridiculous numbers that you have ever seen. I think it's going to match the type of numbers, maybe not rushing wise, but overall scoring wise, that Lamar had during his MVP year. So it's really simple. I don't care that he's the most expensive quarterback because all of his other stacking options are cheap. So Josh Allen is probably going to make probably 20 to 30% of my lineups this week. Joe?
Yeah, no, I like it. And I'm staying right in that game because my number 1 quarterback is Kyler Murray, because that buzz that you're talking about. I mean, Arizona's offense has been improved. Their defense, we'll see. They're in a tough division. Their record's not going to reflect what their fantasy production is about to be this season. they're going to be playing from behind a lot. And I've seen Kyler Murray in the second half of games when they're behind just absolutely torch because they're playing prevent type defenses. He just runs around, find guys that are open. He just loads up in the second half. And that's exactly what this game is going to be. Being in Buffalo doesn't bother me as much in the beginning of September. If they were playing in November, I'd definitely be questioning this call quite a bit. But Kyler Murray, the stacking options are great. You got Marv, you got McBride, you got Wilson. These guys are all guys that are going to get a lot of catches, a lot of yards, potential touchdowns. So sign me up for Kyler. He's my number one Q.
All right, Vinny.
I dig it. The other guy that I'm going to be core lineup-ing, if you want to say it that way, is a guy I mentioned a few weeks ago on our preview show, but I'm going to be leaning towards Anthony Richardson here. Very similar reasons that you just talked about with Kyler. He's got the rushing upside, which obviously we know is massive here in DFS. I just think too many people are going to be rolling towards the Texans. I don't think the Texans are going to be bad this year, but I think in week one we see weird stuff happen. I also think Shane Steichen is one of the most underrated offensive coordinators or play callers in the league. He's got a full, off season to prep for this game and come out firing. This is a guy who almost drugged the Colts in a tough division to the playoffs with Gardner Minshew last year. And Jonathan Taylor was out for a bunch of games. Like, dude, this team's going to come out and challenge the Texans for the division. And I think it starts week one here at home on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, just a real quick, I get that there's a lot of hype around Houston. I just don't know if they're going to be as dominant and put together as a team as everybody thinks that they're going to be. I think they're absolutely contenders in that division, but being favorites,
the target's on their back now.
Yeah, in a division game, I like the call quite a bit. Okay,
man down.
So I guess I'm going next.
You
with my
guess
second
you are
guy.
up, my friend.
And you know what?
Where are you going?
This guy, some would say he's not very good. But I really like the receiver they drafted for him this year. He's healthy. I think that Danny Dimes against a very poor Minnesota defense is in week one, where Brian Daboll has had 2 weeks now and the whole offseason to plan for this game. And I'm going to put my trust in Brian Daboll, and this being a high-scoring game. I have no idea why the total for this game is only 41.5, because both defenses are absolutely terrible, and both offenses can move the ball and score. So, a total of 41, I think it's going way over if you want to find an over to bet in week one. I know week one overs are kind of tough, but yeah, I'm going to Danny Dimes and stacking him with Neighbors and just going to move on from there.
I feel like I downloaded a soundbite just for you, and knowing that you were going to go ahead and say his name.
Oh my God!
Well, then let's hear it then, sir.
No, I don't disagree with that. I think this game has potential. It's just so hard. I mean, dude, this slate is just absolutely slammed with. I mean, there's so many good quarterbacks in the league and offenses now. Being an offensive-driven league, I just think you kind of like counteracted yourself saying like, I'm not going to overthink the slate, and then you're going to play Danny Dimes. Like just play Neighbors.
No, but I want to play Daniel Jones too, because people aren't going to play Daniel Jones because the whole narrative all offseason is that the 4 clips we saw out of training camp where he's like, grossly overthrowing a fucking, a flat route or whatever. It's kind of the same thing like last year. Like, oh my God, Brock Purdy's throwing so many interceptions in camp. It's just like people put so much hype over the camp thing. You go back and look at Daniel Jones's fantasy numbers when he was healthy and playing with no quality wide receivers. Yeah, he runs the ball. We're looking for running quarterbacks. He's going to run around a little bit, right? He doesn't have a lot of great passing options besides Neighbors. So when he pulls it, he's going to go to first read, second read, and pull it down. I mean, it's just as simple as that.
All right. We don't know if Joe's making it back with audio technicality or difficulties we're having here. Who would be your honorable mention QB, and then we'll move on to running backs.
So I had a couple.
Oh, you get one. We're
it's a
running a tight
guy
ship here.
that like, again, it's just, Jaden Daniels.
That's
He's a
what I have
rookie.
too.
The Bucks passing defense is absolutely terrible.
Mhm.
He's a guy where if he doesn't see it, especially on his first or second read, he's going to pull the ball down and run it. He's a dynamic runner. I don't know, I'll be interested to see how he handles himself and protecting himself with running, if he's going to be the Anthony Richardson of last year and just get knocked out in a few games. But I just think that game, again, if we're looking at games where I think that the total is just kind of going to kind of explode, I think that's one. The Bucks' run defense is pretty good. Their pass defense is absolutely terrible. And the Commanders' defense as well. They've added some pieces, but that game's just going to kind of go through the roof, I think. So Jaden Daniels is going to be my honorable mention.
That's my guy too. I won't elaborate too much more on that. I just love the fact that he's in a Cliff Kingsbury offense that we saw him early in his career. You saw Kyler put up just massive numbers with his legs and by throwing the ball. He doesn't have Hopkins like Kyler had and stuff, but I think you're going to see him kind of just running around. And like you said, if that second option's not there, he's taken off. And I think you're going to see 50, 75 yards on the ground, no problem. Look at those prop bets. So I like that play a lot.
So since Joe's not here, just, he has the highest boom rate potential on the entire slate for quarterbacks.
All right. Joe's back.
Oh,
all right.
Hey,
Joe,
he's back.
Who is your second pick and who is your honorable mention? And we can keep this thing rolling.
All right. Second pick is Daniel Jones.
Oh my God.
Brian Daboll announced that he's calling the plays. I'm more betting on Daboll than anything. So, DJ, sign him up. He's got the running ability. It's a new year.
I literally just said the exact same thing when you weren't on here, like verbatim.
Now I'm gonna have to play him. Great.
And Vinny was hammering me for it.
Everyone's so down on him, and like every time everyone's like, "You fucking pick Malik Neighbors. Look who's fucking throwing to him." And I'm like, Daniel Jones is fine, guys. He's not gonna go win you a Super Bowl, but for fantasy football, he's fine. And at that price, sign me up.
All right.
Then
who is your honorable?
Honorable mention is the other side of that game, and it's Sam Darnold. Again, believing in the head coach. I like O'Connell. I like his weapons. I like the price. It just all kind of fits for me. I actually even like the over in this game. We'll talk about it on our circuit show. Tune in. Giants.
Man, you and Jim are in lockstep there.
Let's go.
I love it. Running backs.
What a great time to be alive.
Who are you going to at running back up top? Let's say like 65, 100 and above.
Who's leading us off, Captain?
I'll go. For me, it's going to be Joe Mixon, and we kind of talked about, how Houston's going to approach, their year this year. They have a defensive head coach. They paid this guy a lot of money to be their feature back. They're going to feature him. They are not going to open up the year letting C.J. Stroud throw the ball 55 times, 45 times, right? The head coach came from the Niners, who were very, their philosophy was like, let's run the ball, let's control the clock. They're going to play a division game on the road, right? So to Vinny's point, you've got a nice run back there if you are going to play Anthony Richardson, because I think it pairs really well with what they go on there. But, at 6,600 for the type of volume that he is going to get, I mean, he's got Dameon Pierce and then – the walking hospital cart, Cam Akers, behind him. I mean, he's going to get like 85 to 90% of the touches right now. So for me, in that 65 and up range, it's Joe Mixon. Vin, who you got?
Yeah, I have Mixon here on my list as well. I think if I'm going up top, my favorite guy is probably going to be Alvin Kamara. We've just seen too many games where Derek Carr will just dump off pass, legitimately like 12 targets to him.
100%.
And I don't know if that's going to happen, obviously. I don't have a crystal ball, but the opportunity is there. I don't necessarily love some of the guys above that, just matchups and things like that. So I think Kamara is probably, in my opinion, the safest play. And he's got against Carolina massive upside along with a very safe floor. So I like Kamara in this one. The backup running backs there are absolute trash. You talk about a guy who's going to get a ton of workload early in the season. I think it's going to be Kamara for sure.
Yeah, you got Shaheed a little bit banged up, right? You've got Olave, but I mean, outside of
There's
that,
no one else. Jamal Williams, they said, looked horrible as preseason. Behind him, there's just nothing. So it's the Kamara show. The only person we got to worry about is obviously Taysom, but it is what it is at this point. So, Joe?
I'm loving Travis Etienne, not only this game, but the whole season. I like the game flow of this game. I like Doug Peterson. That offense is going to roll. They do have a very super talented offense. It's going to be some high octane stuff over there that I think people are underestimating. Miami also lost probably the best defensive coordinator in football, and they lost their top 2 defensive tackles, right? You just don't replace that in week 1. There's going to be some missteps, and I think Travis Etienne has a chance to really go off in week 1, and I don't think he's going to be very high owned.
All right, Vinny?
I like that. In the middle tier, I know this is someone that Joe's definitely talked about and someone that I've just been all over since he came into the league, but I keep hearing word that the coaching staff, the new one up there, just absolutely loves him, and I think it's going to be a massive day for Kenneth Walker right off the bat. Look, I know Charbonnet's there. Yeah, as long as he's healthy, which he is, at that price tag, $6,100. I mean, he's got as much upside as anybody else on the slate in terms of just game-breaking ability. He's going to be used probably in the passing game a little bit. I don't think Denver's defense is very good, especially in the front 7. They're still trying to replace Bradley Chubb and those guys. I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, wow, they brought in the new Washington Huskies OC. They're going to throw the ball a ton. But people forget they did run the ball pretty effectively there. And, I like Kenneth Walker, and this one at 6,100 is my middle tier favorite.
Nice. Yeah, my guy in that middle tier is a guy that for some reason, like, I know maybe for season-long fantasy, this guy's kind of a tough, was kind of a tough draft, and he wasn't, being drafted very highly in best balls. But I'm going to take a gamble on DeAndre Swift. The rage for the Bears is all about Caleb, Adunze, the passing game, blah, 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 blah. The Bears, I mean, Matt Eberflus has to win this year or he's gone. It's just that simple, right? So they're not going to let Caleb Williams go out there and try and throw the ball, 40 times, 45 times in his debut. They're going to try and run the ball. They paid this guy a lot of money. They needed a feature back. All the people behind him are not very good. Roshan Johnson's bad. Herbert's still there. He's bad. You've got Velus Jones Jr., a converted wide receiver who is now a running back / wide receiver / kick returner / whatever. Like, you can, and we've seen Swift be dynamic in the passing game too. So I don't think that, I think that they're going to beat the shit out of Tennessee. And I don't know how great Tennessee's run defense is. So I'm going to take a gamble because that's a guy that I just don't think a lot of people are going to. Joe?
I'm going with my home team, Zamir White, Zeus. Say what you want about Luke Getsy. If there's one thing he can do is scheme up a run game. And if that offense is going to do anything this year, they just need to run the ball. And everything's going to be predicated off play action and getting Gardner Minshew out of the pocket and moving. Yep. And you have to have a strong run game to do that. Zamir White, he's not going to get you the pass catch. He's not going to get those things. But I don't need that at 5,700. I'm looking to cash in on goal line touchdowns. And I think on the goal line, he is the guy. There is no one else that's going to get goal line carries outside of him. See how the Raiders play out of who's getting the ball and everything. But if there's one thing that's certain, he is the running back on 85% of the plays.
All right. Going down low, Joe, who do you like below 5,500 and below?
I mean, it's Javonte Williams coming his second year off the ACL injury, right? I mean, last year he still looked good, and coming off of an ACL in your first season, you typically don't look that good. He's looked good in camp. Yeah, he's going to give some carries away to McLaughlin, whatever, but there's not really anyone else to go to. Seattle, they're going to have some growing pains with their new coach. Everyone thinks their defense is just going to be automatically improved. That's just not how that works. And this dude's scheme is insane, apparently, and really hard to learn and pick up. They're going to be running the most vanilla defense you can possibly imagine in week 1. And Seattle's just not that talented in the front 7. So if I'm going low, it's Javonte.
All right. Ben, who do you got?
I think my guy is going to be, well, I had one, but I don't know if I can go this bold right off the bat. But I think I'm going to lean, if I'm going running back, low Tyjae Spears at 5,100. Look, I've been saying at the beginning, I know he's going to split carries, but like at the end of the day, who isn't down at this point or at this like price point? I know there's some guys that are going to get the bell cow work, but this is another guy who I think Tony Pollard's just shot, to be totally honest with you. Like, he looked absolutely terrible last year for Dallas. I think this job is going to be Tyjae Spears's by like week 6. So
yeah,
give me the Spears at 50. What is he? 5,100. He doesn't need a ton to pay off for you, and I think he does have big play upside. You know, if he can catch a screen and get into the open field like it's on. So that's the guy. Like, if I'm dumpster diving, where I'm probably leaning here.
Yeah, I'm going to a guy who is going to get all of the carries, and that's Jerome Ford. I don't care if he's not going to be 5,500 for long. Once you see the usage that this guy is going to get, they're playing at home versus Dallas with a banged up quarterback who, you know, the masseuse, you know, he hasn't really played much football in the last 2.5, 3 years, right? From injuries, and then, you know, can't keep his hands to himself. Yeah, it's so you've got a guy in Jerome Ford who people think that he is just a runner. He had 50 catches last year. I mean, we're talking mostly about, I mean, me DraftKings, right? But like a guy who's 5,500, who's going to get 80 to 90% of the snaps, who's going to catch the ball out of the backfield against a Dallas defense that's just not that great, you know, and especially Dallas's defense on the road always seems to have horrible problems. So at 5,500, I mean, right now the ownership on him is like, I don't know how accurate this is on Wednesday night, but like 6%. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean,
6.7. So
yeah, give me all of that. Like, if he stays at that, I will legitimately. I might have him in 100% of lineups this week. I mean, it's just like one of those things where you're like, he's going to get all the carries. He's at home. Yeah, I mean, just sign me up.
I know we're moving on to receiver. One guy just to keep an eye on as we inch closer to Sunday. I think he's going to sneakily get the majority of work here is J.K. Dobbins for the Chargers. Everyone's talking about Gus, but it's going to be a split backfield, but like, this guy's got all the talent in the world. He just cannot stay healthy, and he's made it to this point healthy. So I think he's going to get. I think he's going to get some work. That's all I'm saying.
In a larger GPP, I mean, I don't see why you don't just what the hell, you know?
What 4,900 is going to be 1% owned if that. So just the last guy. But.
And quick honorable mention: Brian Robinson Jr. Sorry, but Eckler's washed, guys. Yeah, he's going to get some third down work, but again. Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be the touchdown scorer there, and he's going to get the bulk of the carries, in my opinion. But that's just honorable mention.
That's a good call.
A couple.
All right. Wide receivers. Who wants to lead us off? Vinny, who's your guy? Let's say 7,000 and above.
So I'm just going to preface this like the reason I'm not paying up at running back is I want like one of these guys in all my lineups, at least one. And I mean all of them. Like any of these guys works, but Jamar Chase is probably my favorite. I mean, again, this is a guy like 3 years into his contract, sat out asking to be the highest paid receiver in the league. I think he's going to absolutely punish the Bengals and go get that. Like this just seems like the kind of guy.
I'm fairly confident that the reason why he was back at practice is that the Browns ownership literally showed them their balance sheet. It was like, the Bengals showed them their balance sheet. And they're like, we literally don't have the money to put in escrow to give you this contract right now. Like, it sounds wild, but like, I honestly think that, like, look, we're not trying to fuck around with you, but like, look, like if you ask for $85 million guaranteed, we don't have that in our bank account right now.
And I think he just finally said, okay, then I'm going to go out and I was asking for 1 penny more than Justin Jefferson. I'm going to want 20 million more next year because I'm about to absolutely dominate.
Yeah,
So
100%.
that's my narrative going into this week and this season. So Jamar Chase up top is my favorite at 7,800.
Joe, who's your guy above 7,000?
It's Tyreek Hill, and I don't even think it's a question. If you can fit him in the lineup, you put him in there. All right, you can just play him solo. You don't necessarily have to stack it, right? The guy was on pace for the first 2,000-yard season like ever as a wide receiver until he got hurt. He still had 1,800 yards in like 14 games. He is incredible. He hasn't slowed down. He's fine. No one's really even like talking about him that much as they should be. And again, that Miami offense is potent, and they're just running it back this year and
Just
only improved. So,
quick caveat, he's the hardest one because he's the most expensive player on the slate. He's the most likely to score like 50 points and blow the whole slate up, but he's going to be the highest owned on the slate. Like he's got the triple threat. So,
So I think to Joey's
just crazy.
point,
Like he's just that good.
Yeah. I kind of looked at, a strategy that I started playing at the end of the year that Ben Raza, one of the guys from Stochastic was talking about playing an elite running back and a wide receiver from a team, but not putting the quarterback in there. And it worked 1 week for me last year when A-Chain and Tyreek were just going off. Tua had a okay game, but there was other quarterbacks who outscored him. So don't feel like if you just want to play, like if you really like, let's say Mostert and Tyreek this week, you can play just those two guys and you don't have to put the quarterback in there, right? Like that's definitely a strategy, and it's a strategy that not a lot of people are going to play because maybe 10 years ago, right, when we were playing DFS, stacking really wasn't that big of a thing. Now everybody does it. So you have to just get a little bit different, and I think that's a good mention by Joe, where like don't feel like you have to force stack Tua with him. You could play him naked or just play him with one of the running backs and go from there.
Yeah, and you can argue that Tyreek's literally in the middle of his prime right now, which is fucking crazy to even think about. That he's just sitting in his prime right now, right? So if he stays healthy, but week 1, send it. I'm in.
So you guys went there. I obviously like both of those guys. I'll split the difference and go right in the middle to Justin Jefferson. There's just nobody on the Giants who can guard this guy. I get that Addison's back. No TJ Hawkinson.
But I think Addison helps the cause a little bit,
Well, I think Addison helps the cause, and I also think Aaron Jones in his capacity as a pass catcher also helps the cause there a little bit. And if you look at, just from an ownership perspective, right, Tyreek is right next to him, who's going to be the highest owned. Jefferson, who's only $300 less, kind of gets squeezed a little bit. But to go back to what Vinny was talking about, I've looked at it. You can put Hill and Jefferson in the same lineup, no problem this week. The pricing is extremely soft. People are going to be scared to play two of these elite wide receivers together. Don't be. If you want to try and jam all three of those guys in there, it's possible.
Totally.
Yeah, and O'Connell proved last year that even with fourth string quarterbacks, that he's not afraid to throw the ball 35 times in a game. Right? He's going to run his offense regardless.
We're going to throw picks, whatever. Who cares? I mean, you had some guys who aren't even on a roster right now, looking like oh God, like Nick Mullins, like we need to be playing this guy, and it's like it's great when you have Justin Jefferson. That cures a lot of evils, right? So that's my guy. So Vinny, who are you going to in the mid range here from like 59 to 69?
Nice. 59, 69. Nice. I mean. I think my favorite like one-off guy outside of stacks is going to be DJ Moore. I just think he's a damn good player. He's finally got a real quarterback for the first time in his career. I think Caleb is going to be smart and target him and Keenan Allen very heavily early in the season. I also think he really gets the big play upside now with Caleb. If he's scrambling around, he's moving around, that coverage breaks. Like I think you could see a massive big play out of him as well. So I think at that price, 6,500, it's gonna be sub 10%. I think he's my favorite in there.
All right. Joe, who's your guy in the 59 to 69 range?
Yeah, I really like T. Higgins. Contract year. He's upset at the Bengals too. But
I
again,
forgot they
like, to
both
Vinny,
they both want deals.
dude, and in Vinny's point, right? Burrow,
They
I think
just
he's
don't
going to
have the
have a
money.
hell of a. I think he's going to have a hell of a year. They're not going to have this massive run game. There's a chance they throw the ball 50 plus times a game. So T. Higgins kind of goes into a hybrid wide receiver one at that point at 6,100, and there's no tight ends to throw to. Right, it is going to be the Chase and Higgins show week after week, and they're playing a fucking subpar.
You're not a Mike Gesicki guy, huh, Joe?
That's worse than not worse, but it's like Pitts, right? You're just like, okay, how many times am I going to run this guy out there and he's going to fuck me?
He hurt his hamstring again today.
Yeah.
Anyways,
no thanks.
All right.
So my guy in that mid-range there, and this might be the cheapest you're going to get this guy the whole fucking season, so you might as well play a lot of them, is Malik Neighbors. I have no idea why he's 5,900. I mean, maybe I get it. The algorithm
I'm telling you, it's the Daniel Jones effect, dude.
I mean,
it's absolutely the reason.
Are we really concerned that if we look at the other Giants wide receivers, that Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Jalen Hyatt are going to take targets away from this guy? He's legitimately going to have 13 to 14 targets this game. He's kind of a diva. You watch the behind the scenes, and he said, look, I want the ball, right? And Dable has shown in the past with Diggs, with a guy, I'm not saying he's the same type of personality, but a guy who just is an elite player and wants the ball. Great, here you go. We're just going to give it to you, right? And Minnesota doesn't really have anybody, who can play defense against this guy one-on-one. So, yeah, 5,900.
And what's great about Neighbors is it's his run after the catch, and they're going to draw up plays for him just to get open, right? They're not going to have to depend on him to get open by himself. He's going to be running middle screens, every fucking route you can imagine to get him open. They're going to be running it and getting him the ball.
Yep. So he at 5,900, I legitimately think that's the cheapest he's going to be all year. So you might as well take advantage of it while you can. Who wants to go next here in this 58 to 5,000 range?
Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, this is my favorite range, so it's hard to pick. But
there's a lot of good guys. There's a great group of guys in here, so it's
exactly. So this is tough to pick. But this guy I've been hot off for the last week. It's Terry McLaurin. And there's not much else going on over there at receiver. Jaden Daniels is going to huck and chuck a bit. He's going to throw picks, but he's also going to make some big splash plays. He's going to run around and let McLaurin get open and find him late. Just like you're saying with Caleb, right? There's going to be a lot of playmaking ability there. And look, Terry McLaurin is one of the best deep ball receivers in the game. So sign me up for Terry, who finally has potentially a legitimate quarterback.
I love it.
All right. I'll just be quick here. I'm going to give one 4K guy, and then I'll wrap it with a 3K guy. Both rookies. I'm giving you Ladd McConkey at 4,700. Dude, mark my words. This guy's going to catch 110 balls this year. He's just going to get open, and Herbert's just going to pepper him. And this Harbaugh offense, easy throws, move the chains, control the clock. This is what Jim Harbaugh does, especially early in his tenure places. He is going to just absolutely get peppered. I don't know why everyone's falling in love with Josh Palmer, but I will be playing none of him and be leaning much heavily towards McConkey. And then the other guy, kind of tying it back with my Colts team down at 3,800, Adonai Mitchell is with Josh Downs out of the picture. I don't know if he's going to play or not. Mitchell, their first round pick, is absolutely in play here. 3,800, I think you could see him catch 2-3 balls, but definitely one big one for a touchdown. That's who he is. So I love that play at 3,800. It's one of my favorite plays on the slate.
All right. In that higher up in that mid range, a little bit higher. We talked about it earlier. Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir. Just you don't really have a whole lot to say. I don't know why he doesn't have over 10% ownership at 5,100. He's not going to – this is another guy that if they continue the rapport that they had and he continues to get the percentage of targets that he was getting, even with Diggs on the team, there's not a whole lot else to say. He's not going to be 5,100 a lot more this year. So, take it while you can. And then if you want a cheaper wide receiver, this is a guy that I think he's just going to catch a lot of balls. Like it's kind of like the Lad McConkey thing, but Darnell Mooney at 4,200, Kirk Cousins is going to look for those easy throws at points, right? Who knows if Kyle Pitts, I can't really even, but outside of Drake London, it's Mooney, and then it's Ray McLeod, and then it starts to get really ugly from there. Cardale or Hodge, Casey Washington, Mooney is a very good player, right? And at 4,200 in an offense that's probably going to pass the ball a fair amount, with a new offensive coordinator, I just like Mooney a lot at 4,200. He's my guy, kind of in that range. Joe, do you have any real shit stabbers down there at the bottom?
He could be a shit stabber for sure, but kind of goes with your Bills stuff is Curtis Samuel. And I know Curtis Samuel, again, he was on the Redskins, guys, with not much going on, and he did have his one big season there. And his offensive coordinator is the same offensive coordinator he now has with the Bills. And just going off of the Josh Allen upside, Curtis Samuel is going to be their slot receiver. There's going to be a lot of opportunity and a lot of big play opportunity and little gadget plays they're going to design up for him. So I don't know. I'm high on it until I get burned, but I like that. Then the other person we talked about him earlier is Michael Wilson for the Arizona Cardinals, because he's just going to be on the field a lot and playing from behind. So those are my two guys if I'm going to the fours.
Yeah, all right, those are good plays. I've got one more guy, just real cheap, down in that 3,200 range. It's a gamble because I just don't know how much he's going to see the field because he just joined the team recently, but Noah Brown. If you go back and look, Noah Brown had a 159-yard game and a 172-yard game last year.
Yeah, that's a good call.
At 3,200, now it's a gamble week one, and it might be just, put a pin in this guy because I don't know how much more he's, going to rise in price. But outside of Terry McLaurin, Joey said it, it's Olamide Zaccheaus and De'Ami Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. Noah Brown is better than both of those guys. And I don't know why he was cut. It was kind of a weird move, but I just, I think that he's a great option at 3,200. He doesn't need to do a whole lot. He runs those deep routes. And to your point, Joe, if Terry McLaurin's covered and there's a blown coverage and Noah Brown catches one pass for 60 yards and a touchdown, he's gone 4X and you're off to the races. So
yeah, I just picked him my last pick and my last best ball. I was pretty juiced about that. All right.
Yeah, he should not have been going that late.
All right. We all get two.
All right. Joe, you go. You lead us off.
Oh, man. Well, I like to go high at tight end here. So I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid. Hey. Dalton Kincaid, Buffalo, sticking with it. He is their wide receiver one. And again, 5,900 or 5,800 for a wide receiver one. Sign me up. That's too cheap.
Yep.
Jim?
So Kincaid was definitely my number one as well. Another guy I like quite a bit is going to be Jake Ferguson for Dallas. All the hype is going to be around CD. I'm sure CD will be fine. But Cleveland's got a pretty good defense, and Jake Ferguson is a legitimate part of this offense. Got a great rapport with Dak. 5,200, I think he's going to get utilized quite a bit in this game. So, a 6 catches for 70-yard game is, at 5,200. And if he falls into the end zone, then, now we're talking close to 20 points. So that's a realistic expectation for him, kind of in that top end. But I'm with Joe that Kincaid is my main man this week.
I like that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I like both those guys up top. But my probably favorite tight end, it's going to be a total dice roll. We didn't really see him through the preseason with an injury, but he was back practicing today. They did not take him this high up to not be heavily involved with the offense. And I think we see Brock Bowers come out of the gates absolutely hot to trot at 4,500 this week. He's just a matchup absolute nightmare. We're going to see this guy right up there with McBride, Kincaid, Kittle, all those guys very quickly prices. So get him now at 4,500 at like 4% ownership.
Yeah.
So
And remember, he's not a real tight end. He's going to be playing H-back. He's going to be playing slot. He's going to be moving around all over the place.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He is a receiver. Do not fool yourself into thinking otherwise. He's the receiver. I mean,
yeah, he's what Kincaid was last year for the Bills, except he's a lot better of a football player.
100%.
Crazy to think about, but he is. So
okay.
Yep.
All right. My tight end 2 is David Njoku, Mr. Burn My Face Off. I'm probably a little too high.
That was uncalled.
It's kind of cool, dude. He showed up in the fucking Mike Myers mask. It's sick.
Yeah, that was
pretty cool.
He won me over from that moment on. And I don't know. I'm probably a little too high on the Browns offense this year, but I do think that Browns offense is going to be pretty potent. I do like Stefanski outside of like betting on him to make a good call with 2 minutes left, but the offense does run well. I think Deshaun does a lot better than what he's been doing. Njoku, he's just such a freak over there. And Dallas is not going to have too many answers for covering that guy.
No. All right. I like that. My like real just dart throw. So I'm going high to Kincaid, or I'm going all the way down to the Giants rookie Theo Johnson at 2,500. This guy's 6'8". He's competing with Daniel Bellinger, who is a fine NFL player. That they drafted Theo Johnson for one specific reason. When the Giants get down into, I'll call it the gold zone, the 30 and in, right? He's going to be an active part of the receiving game with that offense. The guy's fucking 6'8". He can catch the ball. He can move a little bit. And people are going to be more focused on neighbors when they get down in that part of the field. And, Danny Times can, throw some airmail balls. This guy is 6'8". He can probably reach out to, about 7.5 feet tall to grab something. So that's also good. But at 2,500, I mean, I'm more than fine with taking a dart throw in a game that I think is going to be high scoring, right? And if I want to get really weird in a larger GPP and stack Dimes and Neighbors and Theo Johnson, sounds good to me.
All right. I was going to say our boy Dancing Rick, but I'm not going to go there week one. Pat Fryermuth for the Steelers, 4,400. Mainly because they have no one else besides George Pickens.
Van Jefferson?
Van Jefferson sucks. Roman Wilson's hurt. Calvin Austin is a gadget player. So couple that with the fact that Russell Wilson can't throw the ball downfield, I think Pat Fryermuth at 4,400 is a decent play.
I like it.
JK, defense quick.
Defense.
What do you got?
Let's roll. I am going to go with the Broncos defense. I do not believe in the Seattle Seahawks at all this year. They legitimately have probably the worst offensive line in the NFL. And I think we can bank on some sacks, a pick or two from Geno. Denver's defense, outside of that Miami game last year, wasn't the worst team in the league, but they've improved. I mean, they average 7 points a game. At 2,500, if they can get me 7 points, sign me up. And that just takes a couple of sacks and a pick.
Fuck. All right.
Not one I was expecting. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. But you're playing against Geno Smith, right? So
and a terrible offensive line. He has great receivers, right? But a terrible offensive line. One of the worst.
I might have to actually play that now that you bring it up, Joe. Vinny, who are you going to here?
I'm leaning this way in our pick'em. I will be playing a lot of 3,100 Cleveland Browns. Dak on the road, week one. He has CeeDee Lamb, and that's pretty much it. They have no running game. Offensive line's completely decimated. I just don't see it with Dallas this year at all. So give me Cleveland, that pass rush. They're healthy on defense. I think they're going to get after Dak's ass and put a ton of pressure on him. I think it's at least a 2 turnover game for Dak. So
no, yeah, the one that I was kind of gravitating towards was going to be the Chargers. Just, I mean, Minshew, I love him, right? But he can do some weird shit with the ball. And I'm not saying that the Chargers are going to shut the Raiders down by any means, right? But they still have Khalil Mack.
Which
Joey
plays up
Bosa's-
against the Raiders.
which plays up against the Raiders. They've got Joey Bosa healthy for now. They've got Derwin James healthy for now, right? These are all very injury-prone players. But week 1 against Minshew at home, I'll go. I'll take my chances at 2,900 for a pick six and off to the races.
It's fair.
I like it. All right, boys.
All right, guys.
Favorite
quick
stacks. Bold call.
Bold call.
Bold call. And your favorite stack. You get one stack. Who are you putting your number one lineup?
For me, it's Bills, and it's going to be specifically. I'm going to do an overstack with Josh Allen, James Cook, Shakir, and then Kincaid. That's my favorite stack. I'm going to mix and match a little bit with Shakir and Coleman, but I'm going to be playing several variations of that stack. I like the run backs on the other side from Arizona, but that's going to be overwhelmingly my main stack this week.
Sure, Joseph.
My main stack is right on the other side, Cardinals. And obviously the run backs are elite, as Jim just said. So Cardinals, obviously you got Kyler, you got McBride, you got Harrison. You could throw Michael Wilson in there. You can even have a James Conner type of stack in there as well. I mean,
Light the torch.
There's too much to do.
Light the torch.
There's the Dortch as well. I'm not going Dortch week 1. He's more of my week 9 through like 15 guy when players start getting injured, and he's the guy.
Joe,
well, people are injured right now.
Is your bold call a part of that stack or no?
It is not.
All right, give us your bold call, and then Jim, you got to give yours.
My bold call, because you stole it from me. It's Brock Bowers, 2 touchdowns, possibly 10 catches, but 2 touchdowns is what I'm going to fight my flag on.
Possibly 10 catches. All right,
how much
Jim?
Dude, Mo Alley Cox was getting play last year with Gardner Minshew. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Oh my God, I don't know what I just heard. I'll go with Jerome Ford goes for 25 plus this week.
Whoa.
Okay, I like that. All right, my top stack, as I mentioned, will be Cincinnati taking the Patriots out to the woodshed and just putting them out of their misery early in week 1 here. It's going to be a long year for the Patriots, and it starts on Sunday. I like what you said, Joe. I think you could go Burrow, and I think you could double it up with Chase and T. Higgins if you want. Or you can just skinny stack it with Jamar.
Skinny stack.
For the bold call, I think we see... I was gonna go with Bowers, so you bastard, you totally threw me off there.
Well, you stole him from me earlier, so.
All right, I'll give you one that's just totally up. We haven't talked about this guy. I think a guy that could steal the show in that New York matchup, bringing it back from your Danny Dime stacks, is Aaron Jones. I think you see Aaron Jones go for over 100, and he gets into the box. We'll say twice on Sunday. So I know we didn't talk about
25 plus.
Yeah, I know we didn't talk about him, but he is a guy that's just an X factor in that game. So
I like
that's my call.
Sounds good.
All right, boys. Well, good luck, guys. Make sure to hit us up on Twitter. We got the notorious VJL. We got JJ McIntosh and Joey Props. Hit us in the comments, likes, whatever. Let's get into some fun arguments on Twitter. And on Sunday, stay on Twitter with us. Call us out for our bold calls and all that good stuff. So I'm looking forward to week 1. Well,
no, it's okay. Twitter. It's Twitter.
It's the Twitter machine, man.
We refuse to call it by that stupid single letter.
I love Elon, but I'm not calling it that. I'm sorry.
Single letter. All right. Later, boys.
Later.